So glad to have with me on today Alaska State Senator Elvi Gray-Jackson. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here with you.
Well, I am too, and Alaska is in the house.
Yes, Alaska is in the house.
How have you enjoyed the conference? We're coming to the end. There have been so many different sessions going forward, from DEI to affordability on housing and healthcare. How have you enjoyed it thus far?
I'm really enjoying the conference. I always do. I try to make it every year. And what I'm enjoying a lot about this conference is the fact that AI is in the forefront.
Yes.
Because it's really, really important to get on board. I don't want to be left behind. And DEI, the discussions that have been had on DEI is really important too. I had no idea that Walmart was not following through with their commitment to DEI, and I can't wait to talk to the lobbyists in Alaska who approaches us often on different subject matters to ask her about it.
Let's continue talking about that, because that is very important. You know, whether it's Walmart, John Deere, so many other companies now are scrapping their DEI policies, and it affects things like a diversity supplier chain. When you have that conversation with these lobbyists, what is going to be your focus? Because talk about how this affects your constituents.
Right, and the reason why I'm focusing on Walmart is because we have, there's a lobbyist, a Walmart lobbyist, who on the West Coast, but she comes to Anchorage and she comes to Juneau during the session. You know, and I also was recently invited to ring the bell with some Salvation Army folks. You know, and I'm going to do it, but I also want to talk to her about the reasoning behind it. And you know, what I've read is that a lot of conservative folks have been putting pressure on Walmart and other companies, but that's not the way to roll. Period. They need to continue with their commitment to do what's right for folks.
Let's talk about doing what's right, because you have put forth some amazing and landmark legislation for your constituents, one being your Juneteenth bill. Talk about why that was so important.
It's so important because Juneteenth celebrates Black folks' freedom. You know, we weren't freed on July 4th, you know, but Juneteenth is when it really, really happened. And in 2021, when I saw that Congress was about to make Juneteenth a paid federal holiday, I got busy. And I introduced a bill in 2021. Didn't go anywhere at all. I was in the minority at that point, didn't go anywhere. No pun intended. Didn't go anywhere. And so I brought it back the first session of the 33rd legislature, which was in 2023, last year. And I was so honored because the Senate passed it 16-4, and there are 20 of us. And then it didn't make it to the finish line last year. But this year, of course, it was the second session of the 33rd legislature, and it was in the House. And I did my homework, and the House was majority Republican, 60 of them. I mean, 40 of them. Oh, yeah. Majority was Republican, and I went to every single one of them and talked about the fact that Juneteenth was really, really important. And their big thing was, well, it's costly, you know. And my response to when they brought up cost was, really? You cannot put a cost on celebrating freedom. And evidently it resonated, because when it was on the Senate floor, the last day of the session for a vote, a white legislature, I mean, they're all white. Well, there are a couple of Black folks, but anyway, a white legislator stood up on the House floor, and he said, you know, the senator who brought this bill forward, when she met with me, you know, I was telling her that it was expensive, you know, and it's costly, and she said to me, you can't put a price on celebrating freedom. And he said, and you know what? She was right. And that Juneteenth bill passed on May 15th, I believe it was May 15th, 37-3 in the House. 37-3. And I'm so honored and so proud. Of course, I didn't reach the journey on my own. I'd have help, but I took the lead, and I will always take credit for taking the lead in making Juneteenth a paid state holiday in Alaska, our red state. Yes.
But it speaks to the power of really using your voice, and even when you don't get it done the first time, just keep going back and keep going back. And we see that as people try to push even forth reparations bills and others, but not stopping at that. So on that effort, I'm just in awe, especially with the numbers, you know, 37-3. So that was incredible. What are some other things that you've been able to, in your time, serving constituents that you are really proud of landmark legislation?
I'm proud that the first session, when I was elected in 2018, my first session was 2019, and I was in the minority, no pun intended, but and when you're in the minority, you don't get anything.
Right.
But I was on a mission, and I wanted to see Black History Month in state statutes in perpetuity, not just a resolution, but in state statutes.
Right.
And I was successful getting Black History Month in state statute. That same year, I was successful in getting Alaska Native Heritage Month in state statutes. And my mission is to get every cultural month in state statutes. As a matter of fact, this next session, the 34th legislation, which begins on January 21st, I have a bill to put Hispanic Heritage Month in state statutes. In addition to that, I have bills. I'm bringing forward once again, some police reform bills based on the 8 Can't Wait, George Floyd situation. Yeah, I introduced 6 bills several sessions ago. And, you know, I knew that it wasn't going to be a walk through the park. Nothing really is. You know, anything worth fighting for is never easy, and I know that.
Right.
But I was successful in getting one of them passed, and it was a bill that requires public safety policies and procedures to be online forever, in perpetuity. If there's new leadership, they can't change their mind. And so this next session, I'm bringing back the chokehold ban, a de-escalation a training bill, and then a use of force registry bill.
That's incredible. You know, when I was joking because when they were doing the roll call, I told you earlier, they called out Alaska. And I saw used to one person said, I was like, oh, we got a Black woman in Alaska. Do people ask you that all the time? Are there Black folk in Alaska?
Yeah, all the time they ask that question. And it used to, when I first moved there years ago, I think it was 6%, but now it's 3%. But the good news is our community is very, very diverse. Very diverse. So diverse that there's more than 100 languages spoken in the school district. So diverse that there's an area in Mountain View that is one of the most diverse communities in the nation. So we have every kind of culture you can imagine.